So today for our warm-up, we're going to do our warm-up in our Staar math playbook. So if you turn your page to page 3, which should look like this, at the top it should say multiplying and dividing positive rational numbers. Rational numbers are fractions, decimals, and whole numbers. So if you look at this table, you have 3 columns and 3 rows. And in the first column we have types of numbers, second column we have multiplication, and third column we have division. So our first type of numbers in this first row is 2 fractions, and so we're going to be multiplying 2 fractions in this second column. So the fractions that we're going to be multiplying is 1/2 times 2/3 and so you have to remember your multiplication rules. And the first step that you do when you're multiplying is you're going to multiply your top number, which is your numerator. So we're going to multiply 1 times 2, which equals 2. And that gives us our new numerator. And then we're going to multiply our denominator, our bottom numbers. 3 times 2 is 6, and that gives us our new denominator or bottom number for our new fraction. So our new fraction is 2/6, but of course we want to reduce it if we can, and since they're both even numbers, we know that we can reduce it by 2. So we're going to reduce our top number and bottom number by 2. When we divide 2 into 2, we get 1, and when we divide 6 by 2, we get 3. And at this point we cannot reduce these two numbers anymore, so we are done, and our answer is 1/3. In our second column, we have division. So in this column we're going to be dividing 2 fractions. So our fractions are going to be 1/2 divided by 1/6. And when you're doing this, once again, you have to remember your rules, because our rules for division are different from our multiplication. And so when we're dividing fractions, we have to remember our keep, change, flip rules. And so under keep, we bring down our fraction 1/2, and then we're going to change our sign from division to multiplication. And then this second fraction we have to flip. So 1/6 becomes the reciprocal 6/1. And then we go back to our multiplication rules. So once again we multiply our numerator, our top number. 6 times 1 would give us 6. And multiply our denominators, our bottom number. 2 times 1 would be 2. And then once again we have 2 even numbers for our denominator and our numerator, so now we can reduce it by dividing both by 2. 6 divided by 2 is 3, and 2 divided by 2 is 1. And so our answer is 3/1, which is 3. I'm going to give you a few seconds to make sure you have it copied. Alright, let's go to our second row. Our second row is going to be involving 2 decimals. And so in this first column we're going to be multiplying 2 decimals. And so the decimals that we are going to be multiplying is going to be 3 55/100ths times 2 8/10. Or for the other math students who their teachers say it as 3.55 times 2.8. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to line these numbers up. And when you're multiplying decimals, you do not line up your decimals. You line up your numbers to the right. And once you have them lined up, then you're just going to start your basic multiplication. So 5 times 8 would give me 40. 8 times 5 is 40 plus 4 is 44. 8 times 3, 24 plus 4 is 28. And now that we're starting our second number, we need to make sure that we add our 0, or you can just go over a space and start here. 2 times 5 is 10. 2 times 5 is 10 plus 1 is 11. 2 times 3 is 6 plus 1 is 7. And then these numbers, of course, we're going to add together. So 0 plus 0 is 0, 4 plus 0 is 4, 8 plus 1 is 9, 2 plus 7 is 9. But now we need to come up here and we see that we have 2 numbers to the right of the decimal, so we would put 2 places. Here we have 1 number to the right of the decimal, so we have 1 place. So when you add your 2 and your 1, you get 3 places. So now I know I need to start here at the end, and I need to go over 3 places. 1, 2, 3. And so my answer ends up being 9 and 940 thousandths, or 9.940. Alright, on the next column, we're going to be dividing 2 decimals. And so our decimals are going to be 4 and 1600ths divided by 8 tenths. If you're in the other math classes and your teacher tells you 4.16 divided by 0.8, so when you do this, you're going to make your division house. And we know that the second number goes outside the house. Our first number goes first, so it goes into the house. And then we start with our number that's outside the house. We can't have a decimal out here, so we have to move it until it hits the wall of the house. And what we do to the outside, we also have to do the inside. So since we moved it over 1 place, we're going to move this over in the inside of the house 1 place also. And then we're going to bring our decimal up because that's where it's going to go. And now we just start our basic division. So 8 into 4, we cannot do that. 8 into 41. Goes 5 times. 8 times 5 is 40, so we have to subtract our 40 from 41, and we get 1. And then we have to bring down our 6. 8 into 16 is 2. We subtract our 16, we get 0, and our answer is 5 and 2 tenths, or 5.2. And now we're going to go to our last row. And our last row says 1 fraction, 1 decimal. And in this first column, we're going to be multiplying a fraction by a decimal. So we're going to use 7/8 times 3 tenths, or 7/8 times 0.3. So the first thing we need to do is we want them to be the same. So we're going to keep our fraction 7/8. We'll bring that down. Bring down our multiplication sign. And then we need to change our 0.3 or 3/10 to a fraction. Now, since I tell my students to say 3/10, they should know that the fraction is 3/10. Once we do this, we have regular multiplication with two fractions, which is what we did above. And so now we know we multiply our numerators. 7 times 3 is 21. 8 times 10 is 80. And now we have to think about reducing it. We cannot, so we're done. So our answer is 21/80. On this second column, we're going to be dividing a fraction and a decimal. So we're going to use 1/2 divided by 4/10, or 1/2 divided by 0.4. So once again, we want to change it. So we're going to bring down our 1/2. We're going to bring down our division sign. And then we're going to change our 0.4 or 4/10 to a fraction. Once again, if you say 4/10, you will know that it's 4/10. And now we have to remember our rules when we are dividing two fractions. So once again, we do our keep, change, flip. So we will bring down our 1/2. We will change our division sign to multiplication. And we will flip our 4/10 to 10/4. And now we have a regular multiplication of fractions. And so we multiply our numerator. 10 times 1 is 10. 4 times 2 is 8. And now we have two even numbers. Our numerator and our denominator are even. And so we know we can divide it by 2. And so if we cut 10 in half or divide it by 2, we get 5. If we cut 8 in half or divide it by 2, we get 4. And so our answer can be 5/4, 5/4, or we can also change it. Since our numerator is bigger than our denominator, we can see how many times does 4 go into 5? 1 time, so that's our whole number. And then when you subtract 4 from 5, you get 1, and then you always have to keep your denominator, which is 4. So your answer is 1 1/4. Give you a few seconds to finish copying that. Hopefully after going over these steps, it's a refresher and it has reminded you how to multiply and divide fractions and decimals. If you're still struggling or having problems with these type of problems, please see your math teacher so that they can explain it to you.